Welcome to Community Watch, and today we will be having a discussion about a leadership seminar for young men coming up here in Rome. Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this.
Your life is filled with opportunities to show the world you can take charge. It's waking up each day with a mission. It's working each day toward a goal. It's choosing to rise. It's charging forward with a purpose. It's changing the course of your life and taking charge of your future. If you're ready to be a Take Charger, enroll at Georgia Highlands College today.
Welcome back to Community Watch, and today I am being joined by not a new organization, because the organization has been around, but I'm being joined by, I think we're talking about an organization that a lot of people may know something about, but some may not. And I'm joined with Mr. Vince Vickers, and Vince, you are with the Rho Iota Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma.
Yes, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated.
Yes. So, the reason I say that because I know Rho Iota Sigmas have some members here in Rome,
Yes.
Males and females, of fraternity and sororities, sisters. And I'm not going to say y'all are new to the Rome area. I don't know if your presence has been known as much, but I know the members are active in the community.
Yes, the members are active in the community, yes. Now, there are two basic organizations for us, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity and Zeta Phi Beta Sorority. That Phi Beta Sigma is for males, Zeta Phi Beta is for females, but we are the only constitutionally bound Greek letter organizations. Everybody claims they have brothers and sisters, but we are the only one who are truly written into the Constitution, and our founders actually helped found their organization.
And I do know one of my favorite Zetas, Miss Esther Vaughn.
Yes.
So I always have to talk about her because she's just done so much for me. But Rho Iota, who are you, brothers?
Well, Rho Iota Sigma, we are a group of gentlemen who, although we joined the fraternity at different organizations, which is one of the things about an alumni or graduate level chapter, we come from different parts of the country, and we just happen to settle in Rome or in the surrounding area because we're a metro chapter. So we cover Rome, Calhoun, Dalton, like that. So, but all of us, even though we pledged our organization at different schools, we were all dedicated to the same principles. And see, the principles of the fraternity are brotherhood, scholarship, and service.
Now you speaking my language right there.
Right.
So brotherhood, and I'm guessing, well, let's go back to sort of, I guess, the beginning of Phi Beta, because I know we have the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, we have some Alphas, we have some Kappa, we have a lot of Greek letter organization here in Rome. But if you could, why was there a need, I guess, for African American Greek organizations during that time when most of them came about?
Okay. The actual origin of Black Greeks started like in 1904 originally, Sigma Pi Phi, the Boule. And then came Alpha Phi Alpha. And usually what happened was, at that time, a lot of higher education colleges didn't have fraternities or associations that allowed people of color to network. So then to fix that, the Boule came about, and then Alpha Phi Alpha. And then I guess based on that framework, the organizations came to some of the Black institutions. Like, for instance, there are 9 dominant or primary Black Greek letter organizations. And of the 9, like 7 of them were founded at Howard, maybe 6, because Alpha was founded at Cornell, the AKAs were founded at Howard, the Kappas were founded in Indiana University, the Omegas were founded at Howard, the Deltas were founded at Howard, and us and the Zetas were founded at Howard. And then Sigma Gamma Rhos were at Butler.
I guess that's one reason why in the HBCU community, Howard is still considered the flagship school.
It is the Mecca, yes.
It is still considered. Now, me being a Morehouse man, I still have to give homage
Oh, most
Howard.
definitely.
But I didn't realize that so many of the Black Greek organizations were founded at Howard. I didn't realize that.
Yes.
And so, as a organization, you say y'all are principles of brotherhood, scholarship, and service.
Yes.
So exactly what does that mean for the average person out here?
Okay. Well, as an organization, basically, we were founded because at the time when we were founded, even though there were Black letter Greek organizations, a lot of them were rather elitist. You had to come from a family of means, usually, college students.
Blue bloods.
Blue bloods, yes. They were kind of the snooty upper crust,
Yeah.
because college educations were rare. But our founders, brothers Taylor, Morse, and Brown, actually dedicated our fraternity to the everyman. So, we were dedicated we were based on not having to have a pedigree. We looked for members of individual merit. So we were looking for guys who, while they may not necessarily come from means, they had potential and they had a desire to take what they got at school and through their education back to the community. That's why our fraternal motto is culture for service and service for humanity.
Okay, so that explains the brotherhood. So then the scholarship piece.
Okay. Scholarship, while we're a fraternity of college-educated men. So our main piece of membership is partially at least being college-educated to an extent, but also the education gives you skills to carry into the community, and also we believe that our skills should be taught to others and bring them along, as in each one teach one. We are also the first Black Greek letter organization to have a mentor group, which is the Sigma Beta Club, which was founded in 1950. We are in the process of organizing one of those for the area also.
Now, and I guess the service is kind of self-explanatory, but there is a kind of like a common theme that I guess with alumni chapters and members, alum of Greek organizations and sororities and fraternity about service, and I think it runs through most of them. But that's interesting that y'all were formed sort of like the everyman, because let's just be honest, history is history. It was very, very elite.
Well, at the time we were founded, you had certain organizations used the paper bag test.
The paper bag test.
And if you were darker than a paper bag, you were not eligible for membership.
And a lot of people don't realize that that was actually, well, I don't want to get too off subject, but we don't talk about that a lot in the African American community.
Oh, no.
The level of discrimination
yes.
that we have had and have to this day, it's very rampant. But the idea that you had to stick your hand in a paper bag, and if your hand was darker than a paper bag, you couldn't join an organization. Today we can laugh at that, but that was real.
Yes, as a matter of fact, it is actually written in our history that we would judge our membership based on individual merit, not by race, color, creed, nationality, or texture of hair. I know that sounds odd, but at that time, it was a big deal.
Yeah, texture of hair is actually, well, we can laugh at that because
Yes,
we know.
we know, yes.
But wow, who would have thought?
Yes,
that?
but at that time.
At that time it was needed. And so I guess locally you have members that are active, in different capacities. So how long, I guess, have y'all an alumni chapter, I'm assuming.
Right.
So how long have y'all been in alumni chapter here in Rome?
Our chapter we're actually be celebrating our 3rd anniversary this coming weekend. So we've been here for 3 years. We've been working on getting ourselves together a little longer than that, but the chapter is actually 3 years old.
And so we're going to talk about the leadership seminar, but as the president, what do you see some of the challenges that are facing the organization? I guess when we look at it in our community, there's a lot of isms and a lot of hurt and pain. So what do you see from a chapter perspective, some of the ways that the organization can, I guess, help with some of those things?
While there are a lot of organizations in Rome, I think part of what we offer is a little bit different because of the skill sets of our members. We have a lot of different brothers with different sets of skills, and we're probably, for right now, since we're relatively small in number, looking to partner with some other organizations such as 100 Black Men, and also we'll be using our sorority sisters, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, to do some community events. Some of the things that we're looking at eventually, we want to adopt a school, because that is a national initiative, is adopt a school. We also have the Youth Auxiliary, the Sigma Beta Club that I mentioned earlier. We'd like to start one of those in this area. And also, in addition to that, we see where there are a lot of misdirected youth, for lack of a better term. I mean, I work personally at the Youth Detention Center as a counselor. So I talk to a lot of kids who deal with a lot of negative influences from their community on a day-to-day, on an everyday basis. Yeah. So kind of getting those kids to see where there are other outlets to the world other than having to, commit crimes, or thinking that you are relegated to a service job or a fast food job or whatever, so that you can see where you can get an education or you can get a trade and you can become a productive citizen and live a life that's respectable without having to be negative.
It's interesting that you say that, because when I was just thinking about what you were saying, to be in a fraternity or sorority, for the most part, one of the, I guess the primary requirement is, you had to be in college.
At the time, yes.
You had to be in college. Mm-hmm. And if you were joining the grad chapter, you had to have graduated from college. There's a lot of college-educated African Americans in this area, but sometimes I don't know that we realize that. But we have a large network of highly qualified, highly educated African Americans in this Rome and this area. But sometimes I don't know that our youth or even the community, I guess we sometimes just don't pay any attention. We may take it for granted.
Well, I think the problem is, and I've read about it and talked about it with a lot of people, is our problem is when we graduate or come up, the first thing we do is leave the hood. Mm. And when we leave the hood, we don't look back. And now I think that because our neighborhoods are getting into such a state that I think a lot of the organizations are looking, even though we're not necessarily in the hood sometimes, we're starting to look back and see remember where we came from and start to try to give back and bring some other people up and out.
It's interesting. My mentor told me, when all the neighbors leave the neighborhood, it becomes the hood. Meaning, you're right. This motto of I'm coming up and getting out and leaving, but then what do we leave behind? And we clearly have an obligation to still be connected somehow to that place in which we come from. Not advocating that you have to live there, but you got to be connected somehow to that place, because if you don't give back to it, then who does?
Yes.
And so I appreciate what you just said, because I think that's so true.
But also, I know that you are a little more mature. So you probably remember the day when if you were outside, everybody knew who you were. They knew you were such and such's kid. And I grew up in that era also, so that when it was a village back then. The neighborhood took care of everybody. You know, if you did something, even if you were up the street, they knew about it before you got home.
We're going to have to take a quick break right quick, but we come back, we'll continue talking about the leadership seminar that's coming up. So stay tuned, we'll be right back right after this.
Seven 7,000 high school students drop out every school day. That's a line of desks more than 4 miles long. We can keep students in school. Visit boostup.org and take the first step.
Welcome back to Community Watch, and we're being joined with Mr. Vince Vigors of the Rho Iota Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Incorporated.
Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity.
Fraternity Incorporated. And before we left, you was talking about the classic growing up some time ago when everybody knew who you were. They knew your family. You had family pride. You had you couldn't shame your family name. And there was a sense of responsibility that everybody took for every child.
There's a sense of community.
And it's amazing, because I definitely want us to start talking about the leadership seminar, but it's amazing now how some of us are so disconnected from our communities, and we're afraid of our own quote unquote grandchildren, because a lot of us are afraid of young African American children. And clearly that comes when we're disconnected from them.
It's a lack of nurturance, I believe, at least by the older members of the community. And the kids are influenced, the influences are different now. Like, for instance, when we were children, it was go outside. Now you almost have to pick a kid up and throw them outside.
Oh, yes.
We used to be get outside and don't come home until the street lights come on.
Or if you come back in, you're staying in for the rest of the day.
Drink out the hose, that's it.
Oh yeah, but let's switch gears a little bit. So part of y'all coming out to the public, I guess, is y'all are offering a leadership seminar. Tell me about this.
Okay, we're offering a leadership seminar for young men aged 8 to 17. The purpose of this is to teach to try to teach some skills and talk about some things that we believe that especially the young males in our community aren't getting. So we are dealing with a lot of the things that we feel that they need, such as we're talking about the value of an education and things that you can use an education for. We're talking about personal presentation skills, improving your communication skills, conflict resolution, negotiations, health and hygiene. Those kinds of things, because when you notice, like, the first thing you notice when you see someone is how they present themselves. And it kind of becomes disheartening when you see young males and they walk up and their shirts all tucked out, their underwear's hanging out, and when they open their mouth to speak, it's kind of like soup. It's just jumbled up and just like. And so we wanted to have something where we talk about the value of personal pride, and how you present yourself is how people see you, because a lot of our kids aren't taught that personal presentation is a sales job, and how you sell yourself to everyone determines how you're accepted in your community, in your school, in your neighborhood, and those kind of values are needed.
It's interesting because one of my personal quotes that I use with my mentees is, how you are dressed, so shall you be perceived. And how you are perceived, so shall you be treated. It's not necessarily fair, but that's the way it is. I mean, the way you carry yourself is how people perceive you. And I think for so many young men, I think they are aware of this a sales job. And I think they want to sell that image, this negative image. And I think because I think they are. I think a lot of them are afraid. I think they put up this facade that is hard, that is tough. But when I spend the 100, when you spend any time with young men and you get to talk to them, you realize they have so much more potential than what they project. But I think that projection keeps a lot of people at bay. And that's why I think we have to challenge ourselves to get beyond that sometime. Because I know young men who have a persona and a perception to some people as a thug, he's bad and all this. But when he's in our group, he's very sensible, very articulate, very inquisitive, but it's like two different people. And it's a shame that so many of our young men feel okay with such a negative presentation, I guess. That just speaks, I guess, volumes to me that why is it okay to be okay with a negative presentation?
Well, in my opinion, I think a lot of it comes from the media culture. And it seems like over the last, especially probably the last 10, 15 years, the negative side or the hood prison culture has been glamorized. I mean, it's like tattoos and you got to be swole. And you have to present this hard image. And they would say, you know, quote, being a black man is hard, so you got to be hard. You can't take stuff off people. And so they give you this facade that you have to put forth, and you can't be vulnerable, you can't be articulate. And for some reason they glamorize not being, for lack of a better term, smart. And so it's like, you know, it's almost like from the days of slavery. You don't want them to know what you know, because if they know more, they expect more.
Expect more.
And so I think that's also one of our issues, because personally I feel that one of the reasons our kids don't step up is we don't have a high enough level of expectation. Or that level of expectation has gone down over the years.
You know, I catch flack for this, but I'm gonna stand by it. I always told my kids, I'm not, you know, you graduate from high school, I mean, I'm not moved by that. That's like the first step that you are supposed to take. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I have a college degree, I'm not celebrating you graduating from high school. I mean, in America, that's expected. That's the norm. And I get some people, no, because my mother graduated from high school. So we have gone to a point where you talk about the expectations that we are now where we're actually celebrating. I'm glad you graduated from high school, don't get me wrong, but that's expected. That's supposed to be expected of you, not something that is like, oh, wonderful. You're supposed to graduate from high school. And so I definitely agree with you. I think our expectation as a community somewhere changed, because desegregation, getting rights to a quality education, and now in 2018, we just happy our kid walked across the stage, something went wrong.
See, well, in my opinion, I think part of that also is that, and this is kind of, even though the Constitution guarantees a free and public education, I think we've gotten to the point to where we take that level of education for granted as a society. As a nation, because if you notice, when people come over here from other countries like Asia, Africa, Mexico, whatever, their kids are all on honor roll, because they don't have those opportunities for education. So those parents get in there and they dig in with both, and they push. You're going to go to school, you're going to do well, you're going to succeed, and you're not going to be what I am. We're going to push you, we're going to lift you up. Whereas a lot of our people, we're here, it's like, school's just something you got to do until you finish. And so, and it's the infamous, I graduated high school's good enough for you. But I know I have a level of expectation, because while I have a master's degree, just like the people who are presenting at our leadership seminar this coming weekend, Dr. Justin Henry has a doctorate in physical therapy. Dr. Marilyn McCluskey has a doctorate in education, and I have a master's in clinical psychology. We also have several other speakers who will be talking about different aspects of leadership, community intervention, and some of the subjects were covered in the seminar. And all of the people who are presenting are at least bachelor's level.
See, I like that. I like that. And so, you know, one of the motto of the 100, well, our motto is what they see is what they'll be. And I think, you know, y'all are on the right task, that we have to constantly keep expectation in front of these young men, but also give them a model of that expectation. So that, because I think it's easier to dream about something you can see and you can actually, it becomes tangible. And so I commend you. So when is the date and time of the seminar?
The date and time of the seminar, the date is February 16th, it's Saturday. We'll be starting at 8:30 a.m. It'll be at Holsey Sinai CME Church over on 1233 Martin Luther King Boulevard in Rome. It's nice you mentioned what you see is what they'll be. It's just like one of our graduate alumni brothers, Les Brown, who's a motivational speaker, says, if you see a person as they are, you don't expect much. But if you see them for what you expect them to be or what they can become, they can be a lot more. And also, when you see people and you have that vision for them and you treat them like it, they become more confident in themselves and strive for your vision as opposed to settling where they are.
That's deep. So the seminar is February the 16th.
Yes.
From 8:30 to 12 p.m.?
8:30 to 12. So
12.
we'll be doing, basically we'll have the seminar from 8:30 till about 11:30, and then we'll be serving lunch.
Serving lunch. And is at Holsey Sinai CME Church in North Rome.
Right.
Is there a cost for it?
There's no cost.
And so, and it's open to the public, I'm assuming?
Yes.
And so people just need to register for the event?
Well, they can register for the event, or they can contact myself at 706-506-4483, or they can send me an email at pbsrome@gmail.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll give out that contact information again. But this is a leadership seminar hosted by the Rho Iota Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated.
Yes, sir.
Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this.
Your life is filled with opportunities to show the world you can take charge. It's waking up each day with a mission. It's working each day toward a goal. It's choosing to rise. It's charging forward with a purpose. It's changing the course of your life and taking charge of your future. If you're ready to be a Take Charger, enroll at Georgia Highlands College today.
Welcome back to Community Watch. And today we're talking about a leadership seminar presented by the Rho Iota Sigma chapter of the Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, which is February the 16th from 8:30 to noon at Holsey Sinai CME Church in North Rome. And events, once again, people can register for the event by calling you at what number?
My number is 706-506-4483. Or they can send an email to pbsrome@gmail.com.
And once again, if you have a young man ages from 8 to 17,
8 to 17.
8 to 17, they will be discussing a host of different, I guess it's workshops actually.
Yes.
So they'll be having a host of workshops on different topics, primarily for African American males, but it's open to anybody. I mean, it's open to any young man 8 to 17. So if you got a young man that could use this, which most of us know some, please give Mr. Vincent a call. Thank you for being with us this week on Community Watch, and thank you, Mr. Vickers, and we'll see you next time on Community Watch.